they are a little devious at times. There was also, this is a famous one too within our office. Again, they're engineers, so they're good at engineering things. We had the cubicles, and we had the ceiling tiles above each of the cubicles. So they rigged it so that they could pull a string over on one side of the room. A cubicle, or the ceiling tile would lift up, and it would dump the little chads from the old computer systems. They had the little punch things that punched out, and they would fall down. So every time this engineer would leave his cubicle, he'd come back and these little chads would be laying all over his desk, and he couldn't figure out. And he would watch, nobody would come into his cubicle. But he never could see this string way over there they would pull, and they had it all rigged up that way. So very ingenious, those engineers. So. One of the first bigger projects that set KJWW apart and on the engineering map was the new agronomy hall at Iowa State University in the mid-'80s. The building featured some of the most innovative designs and earned the firm its first international mechanical engineering award, which is the top award worldwide. We opened our first branch office in 1989 in Des Moines, Iowa, followed by a second office in Madison in 1993. That same year, KJWW designed the Mark of the Quad Cities. It was our largest project to date at $50 million at that time. It opened to much acclaim, and of course, if many of you were involved or remember, Neil Diamond, I think, was the opening act for that. So, in 1999, KJWW started designs for its first greenfield hospital. This was a brand new hospital on flat cornfield ground. It was at Great River Medical Center in Burlington, Iowa. In the 14 years since we did that groundbreaking project for us, the hospital market remains our biggest market. It's about 50% of our work. And we have since done 30 greenfield hospitals in those 14 years. What made Great River Medical Center so special was that we engineered the largest lake-coupled geothermal system in the country. We constructed a 15-acre man-made lake, and we used that as the heat sink for the geothermal system. Again, it set us apart, and it earned us our second International Mechanical Engineering Award. 1999 was another big year still for us in that we opened our first branch office in the Chicago suburbs, out in Naperville. No one, and think about this, 14 years ago, no one in the Chicago market even knew of KJWW Engineering. So we've made a lot of strides in 14 years to now, we are ranked the top 10 engineering firms in the country. We now have 12 offices in the US. We have 2 international offices. Our ones here in the US, besides Des Moines, Madison, Naperville, we have downtown Chicago, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, St. Louis, Kansas City, Cedar Rapids, Wausau, Wisconsin, and Phoenix, Arizona. Our international offices include Dubai and over 70 people in India. And I leave next Saturday for my first trip to Dubai, Kuwait, and Bahrain with the company. And our current president right now is Paul Van Dyne. And he's been our president since 2003, and he is currently the president of the chamber as well. For our office in Dubai, which has been a very interesting learning curve for us, we have a team that travels there and meets our staff that's over there permanently. But we have a team that goes over there every other month, and we're developing work in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Lebanon. We're doing our first $400 million project in Lebanon right now in Beirut. It's a brand new hospital. For our office over there, though, we hired an Egyptian. His name is Mohammed Bassioni, who speaks Arabic to join our team, again to help us with the culture and the language. Well, our US leaders quickly learned that when you're in a airport in the Middle East, it's best not to yell out, "Hey, Mohammed," across the lobby, because literally every head turned. They realized that's not something to do over there. We've worked with many of the world's leading architects, from Caesar Pelli, who designed the famous Petronas Twin Towers in Kuala Lumpur. Many of you probably have seen that. To Frank Gehry, known for his unique design of the Guggenheim Museum, the Walt Disney World Concert Hall, and Millennium Park in Chicago. Sam himself had the pleasure, or I should say challenge, of working with Frank Gehry. If any of you have ever seen one of his buildings, it looks like twisted metal for it. on the new laser lab at the University of Iowa. And it's a building that looks kind of like a big, giant copper goldfish over there, if anyone's familiar with that building. Some of our other notable local projects include the Augustana Library, the new Student Center addition that we're doing there currently. We just finished renovations of the Old Main and Carlson Halls, both historic. We did St. Ambrose's new Student Union a couple years ago. We've done the Bettendorf Library, the Bettendorf Children's Museum, the Putnam and the IMAX expansion, Trinity 7th Street Hospital, Trinity Bettendorf Hospital, and most recently the WIU Riverfront campus. As well as right now, we're currently working on designs for the expansion at Trinity Rock Island and at Genesis Medical Center. Today, about less than 1% of our work is local, so there's quite a few people in the Quad Cities who have not even heard of KJWW. Most of our practice comes from outside the Quad Cities. 50% of our work is healthcare, followed by about 40%, which is higher ed and K-12. Some of our largest clients include the University of Illinois. It's one of our biggest clients, both the Champaign campus and the Chicago. We've done most of the new buildings down on that campus. Argonne National Labs, which is part of the Department of Energy. Wells Fargo, Deere & Company, and numerous healthcare clients throughout the Midwest. Right now we work with about 150 different hospitals, about 90 colleges, about 120 K-12 schools. We have many Fortune 500 companies that we work for, and in fact, last year we earned the Project of the Year award for design of the Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield building in Des Moines, Iowa. It's a $180 million building, and it achieved LEED Platinum, which is the highest honor in sustainability and design. It features the largest rainwater harvesting system, so it collects all the rainwater and uses it for irrigation and other things within the property. It also has one of the largest gray water recycling systems. So we're taking water that's used out of fountains or toilets and recycling that for other uses. Right now the building saves about 25% in energy and about 55% in water. Also, this past year we were named Designer of the Year for the firms. This is a high honor across the country. Not only was it just among engineers, but it was among all the architectural firms and construction firms in the country. So to be chosen, little KJWW in Rock Island, Illinois, was a huge honor for our firm. Another major project that we just finished, we recently completed the new federal courthouse in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It's a $115 million complex, and we worked with world-renowned architect William Rahn out of Boston. The building has special anti-terrorism force protection, had very strict codes that we had to adhere to, especially for security, had a state-of-the-art system, and it had a lot of redundant systems in case of any type of terrorism, that it would be self-containing. The building achieved LEED Gold, and it achieved 35% reduction in energy, which is huge. We do as a firm believe in getting back to our communities, so in which we have offices. Our many contributions and activities include, we're a sponsor of Skip Along Daycare. We are a sponsor of the Festival of Trees. I don't know if everybody goes each year, but we do the train display. Our engineers design and we install and build that every year, and we do its ground up every year. So it's a big undertaking for us. We also do the Festival of Trees, the Balloon Parade, Habitat for Humanity, United Way, the Heart Walk, Construction for food drives, Salvation Army, Red Cross, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boys Club, Junior Achievement, and many more. Sam was very instrumental in starting and building a great company. He was a wonderful mentor and teacher to me and to many of the people still at the company. He and the original principals laid the foundation for a company of high ethics, good morals, hard work, dedication to clients and family, and showed that you don't have to flaunt your achievements to be successful. I owe some of who I am today to Sam and Hildy. I'm gonna cry. I love you dearly. So it's truly a family that Sam built. Thank you.
See what you get?
Should we ask, are there any questions?
How many aircraft do you have?
We got rid of it though.
They got rid of it in the second year.
Yeah.
What?
You got rid of it the second.
Good point.
What's it like working with Carl? I would like to mention that I worked for 30 years for Missman Stanley and Associates. They're civil engineers, and we used Kimmel Jensen a lot, and I worked a lot with Ward Jensen. He was a great teacher. I believe he was teaching at Iowa State College before World War II. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's how far he goes back.
Yes.
And when you're dealing with jobs that's so far away from you, you got to know what everything's about when you make a trip there.
Oh, yes.
And Ward drove that home to me one time. I went over to Ladd, Illinois, he and I. I was looking at the piping, he was looking at the electric. We would start to leave, and Ward would say, let's go back and remeasure. I think we did that about 5 times because he didn't want to get 70 miles back home and then have to come back over there to look at something.
That's right.
That was a great lesson to me.
Another thing about Ward is during World War II, he was, of course, being an electrical engineer, he was in the Navy, and he was in charge of the radios on a destroyer. He got seasick when tied to the dock. So he said he was a heck of an electrical engineer, but a lousy sailor. Yes.
Did you design the whole building or just the air conditioning type of stuff?
Just the mechanical and electrical systems. The architect does the ceiling tile and everything, but we would do the lighting and all of the plumbing, all of the air conditioning, ductwork, things of that nature.
We call it the guts of the building. What makes it operate.
There you go. Yes.
Why don't you, as a firm, buy the old Audubon school building? Make revisions in it and preserve it, because Carol Kimmel was president of Audubon PTA before she became national president, and was always interested in Audubon.
Oh, yes.
Much for it throughout her life.
Carol was a fantastic person. For those of you who don't know, Walt and Carol, when they retired, they wound up moving to Hot Springs, Arkansas. And then they got into the really older ages, and so they moved to Montana to be close to their daughter, who was a school teacher there. And they were in a assisted living type of a situation in Montana. And Walt, while shaving one day, he just kind of twisted and he broke his hip while he was shaving. And so he was in a wheelchair. About a year later, they were in bed one night, and they had twin beds, and he yelled for Carol, and so she came over. She said, "Yes, Walt?" And he says, "I love you," and that was the last thing he ever said. He died. That was his last breath. Great couple, and of course, Carol had had eye surgery, about 40 years ago, and she was all completely blind when she passed away here a few years ago.